comes from section 5.1, 53 in the book, number 14 online. 53 in the book, number 14 online. And here's the problem. Let's find the greatest common divisor and the lowest common multiple for 104 and 130. And 130. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and sometimes 13. So they're both even, so what can we use? 2. So we put a 2 in there, and that'll give us a 52. And 75? 65, thank you. Um, 13. You got to watch that 13. Sometimes that 13 will mess you up. So 13, I think they'll go in 4 times and 5 times. And at this point, what are we going to do? Real math stops. Now, if you wasn't here the other day, you need to watch the video because we went over it and I think the sound was out, so I'll go over it again. The real math stops. In other words, at this point, there's nothing that will go into both 4 and 5. Nothing. Okay, so at that point, the real math stops. When the real math stops, that's when you have the greatest common divisor. So the greatest common divisor is 26. Multiply those two together. I think we did this problem the other day, which that's fine. We'll do it over. I don't care. And then we keep going because we want 1s on the bottom for our least common multiple. So I'm going to divide by 2. And that'll give me a 2. And the 5 comes down because we cannot do it. Another 2. There's one of our 1s. And then the 5 comes down, and what do we divide into 5 to get a 1? 5. And that'll give us a 1 and a 1. And that's what we want. When we have those 2 1s, that means that this guy is the least common multiple. The first thing I'm going to do is try to find a 10. And here's a 10 right here. Do we have any other 10s? Nope. So I'm going to take that 10 and multiply by that 13. Why? Because it's easy. And that'll give me what? And then I'm going to take that 130 and multiply by 4, and that'll give me a 520. So our answer here should be 520. Y'all check to see if 130 by 4 gives us 520. I think it will. So we take our handy dandy virtual cursor and put 520 there, and we feel good about ourselves. Okay? Alright, let's do a nerd. This one is 5.1, 55/15. 55/15. Oh yeah, that looks like a test question right there. 135, 405, and 2187. All right, get to work. I would say 3. Well, why do you say 3, Hubert? Well, 3 will go into 15. 3 will go into 15, and 3 will go into 27. So that's why I start with 3. I don't know if it'll work or not, but let's try. 3 will go into 13 4 times. That'll leave a 15, so that'll be 45. So far, so good. 3 will go in here 13 times, or 3 will go in here 1 time. That'll leave a 10. Then that'll be 3, and then a 15 will be 5. 3 will go into 21 7 times. Go in there 2 times. Leave 27. Look at there. It worked. Now we got a 5, and 3, and a 9. I think 3 again. That'll be a 15. 3 will go into 135 45 times. Please don't do that over when you got it right here. 3 will go into 7 2 times. That'll leave a 12 4 times and 3. Again, I think that 3 might help us out again. Don't know. But I know that's 5 and that's 15. So 3 will go into 24, 8 times? And then 3 will go in there, so that's 81. And I think the real math stops. Why? Because the only thing that will go into 81 is multiples of what? 3. You don't have a 9. See? But you're thinking along the right lines. 3. So, will 3 go into 5? No. So at this point, the real math stops. Real math stops. That means 3 times 3 times 3. 27 is our greatest common divisor. So now let's finish it. So I'm going to take 5. That'll give me a 1. There's one of our 1s. A 3. And that 81 comes down. 3. That 1 comes down. There's another one of our 1s. And 27. And at this point, if you know that 3 to the 3rd power is 27, you can put 3 to the 3rd power right here. And that'll give you a 1, a 1, and a what? And a 1. 3 to the 3rd. I just kind of, I was running out of space, so I just kind of, yeah. So you got 3 3s here, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 3 to the 7th power times what? Which is a BA number. So I'm just going to put 3 to the 7th power times 5, and then whatever they want, you need to put in there. So if you need a calculator, somebody emailed me and said, how do you put in an exponent? Shift 6. Shift 6 gives you the caret symbol. Let me go ahead and tell you that. Shift 6 gives you the caret symbol. And the caret symbol is an exponent. Please do not call it a house top, because then you sound like an ignorant person. It's a caret symbol. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't send you a question, but once I got that answer and it told me to put it in, it was like you need to divide it by 3, like simplify it, and I couldn't simplify it.
That's why I need to see the question.
It was just like that.
Yeah. Let me pull it up through your homework, but let me go ahead and type in the answers here, and then we'll do that. So this one is 27. And the next one, I'm just going to type in 3 to the 7th. So 3, and then I hit shift. See there, 3 to the 7th. And then move over 1 time with the arrow to get it back where it was. Times is shift 8. And then 5. And it's probably going to say wrong, but we'll take our handy dandy calculator and we will type in 3 to the 7th power. It's going to be a pretty big number, BA number, as soon as I get rid of all this junk. 3 to the 7th power, and then times 5. 10,935. I'm just going to hit enter and see what they say. So they probably want 10,000, but I'll be very lenient on the test if you type in either one. Okay. That's a good test question. Hint, hint, der.
Which one was that, number 15?
I think so. I can't remember. I think so. So let's do a nerd. Let's do one just like this one. Oh well, it's a little bit smaller, but let's do that one. This is 24, 48, and 128. I'll write them down a little bit bigger for you. 24, 48. 128. This one's a little bit easier. Two will go into 24. How many times? 24. 64. 2. 6. 12. 32. 2. 3. 6. And 16. Real math stops. Yeah. Good. So our greatest common divisor is 8. So that is the biggest number. That will go into all three. And now we're going to take 3, 1, 2, 16, 2, 1, 1, 8. 2 to the third will give us 1, 1, 1. Again, I kind of skipped a couple of steps because I was running out of room. So 2 to the third, that's 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. 2 to the 7th times 3. Now this one is doable because 2 to the 5th is 32. So 2 to the 6th is 64. 2 to the 7th is 128. And 128 times 3, 4, 8, I don't forget what I was multiplying. Did I say 128 times 3? Okay. 4, 8, and 3, 384. I don't know if that's right or not. Y'all check me. 384. That should be it. So make sure you can do a couple of those for the test. What?
It says,
It'll be, well, I'm working on that. I'll just let y'all know when I get there. Because the math department is trying to make us do it all in class, and I like to do them online, so I'm trying to figure out a way to do it.
did you give us a date when we need to have that study plan test taken?
Study plan test.
Well, I clicked on that study plan underneath.
That's you just take what you want to. That's
just
extra.
practice.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just practice.
Okay.
I haven't given any test yet. So y'all just play around with that stuff. That's
I
fine.
did yesterday.
That's good. I'll tell you your strengths and your weaknesses.
It will.
8 and 384. Excellent. We feel good about ourselves. So we don't have to put smokestacks on our trucks. Okay, next. That's all the questions. Now, 5.3, I'm going to skip 5.2 right now. The reason I'm going to skip it is because 5.3 is about adding and subtracting fractions, and that is why we find the least common multiple, the greatest common divisor. So I think it's kind of imperative that you go into what you need it for next instead of wait for a section and then use it after you done got cold. So that's why I've skipped 5.2, and you can work on it. It's multiplication and division of fractions, I think, or it might be integers. I can't remember, but I don't really concern myself with that. I want to move to 5.3. So I'm going to take my handy dandy virtual book and, well, get out of this and go to 5.3. So we can get started on that. So you should be working on 5.1 and 5.3 right now when you leave today. Now, in order to add fractions, add or subtract fractions, you've got to have what? Common denominator. That's very important. And when we get to the common denominator, so I'm trying to get to it right now. There we go. Now, a lot of you say, well, he skipped all that other homework. Yeah, I did, because the most important part, what you're going to see on the test, is going to be adding and subtracting fractions. So I want to make sure I get that covered. So let's look at this guy. 4 and 10. 1/4 plus 1/10. Now let me show you what students do because they know everything. This is what they do. They say the common denominator is 40. They go, okay, 1/4 plus 1/10. The common denominator is 40. They go down here and they do 40. 4 will go into 40 10 times. 10, 4, it'll be 4. Then they say 14/40. And what's the number one mistake students have when they do this? They forget to what? They forget to reduce. And they get the whole problem wrong. Even though they did it right, they get it wrong because they didn't do it correctly. They did the math right, but they didn't do what they were supposed to. Okay? And the ones that do this kind of stuff are the ones that think they know everything. They invented mathematics.
You just multiply those two?
No, that's not what you do.
Okay.
Okay, I was showing you how not to do it. That's how not to do it.
Okay.
All right? What you do is you use your method that you just learned. 4 and 10. Now, there's somebody out there right now going, well, I know what it is. It's 20. Okay? You need to stay home. Okay? Because I'm not teaching you. I'm teaching the people that don't know how to do it. All right? Okay. So, 4 and 10. 2. That'll be a 2 and a 5. right? 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and sometimes 13. Because the way I teach, I like to show students why I teach you this and why I teach you this. Well, the reason I teach you that method that we learned is when you get one that's not as simple as this, you can still find the common denominator without having to rely on what? Calculator. So now I'm going to take my 2, get a 1, 5, and 5, a 1, and a 1. And what is my common denominator? What's 4 times 5? 20. So you go over here and you rewrite your problem. And you put a 20 down here. And you put a 20 down here. 4 will go into 20. 5 times. 5 times 1 is 5. Or you could go over here, take your 4 out, and how many times will 4 go into 20? 5 times. Right there. 5 times 1 is, I don't know why it's doing that. I know it's picking up my finger for some reason. How many times will 10 go into 20? 2 times 1 is, now what's 5 plus 2? And that's your answer. And that's how you use what we've been doing in 5.1. Now, if something is going to make up your Unit 1 test, it's going to be these guys. These problems that we do today is going to make up a lot of your tests on Unit 1. I'd say probably 60% of your test is going to be adding and subtracting fractions.
Can you, if you don't mind, go over that again? You had your back and I couldn't see what you were doing.
You can't see through muddy water.
You're dividing the...
You take the 20. Here's the 20. That's our common denominator. And you got to convert. 4 will go into 20. 5 times. 5 times 1 is 5. 10 will go into 20. How many times? 2 times. 2 times 1 is 2. 5 plus 2 is 7. And bring the 20 over.
And it can't be reduced, so it stays that way.
That's it. And that's the way, if you pick the correct common denominator, the lowest common denominator, you don't have to reduce. Because it's already in reduced form. Now you get one with 3 denominators. That's where the ones that think they know everything, they just take all 3 denominators and they multiply them together, and then they get some BA number that you have to have a calculator to reduce. It's real simple if you do it this way. I know 7 divided by 20. We got it right. All right. That one's a little bit easy, but we'll try it. Go ahead and do that one. I'll let y'all do it. I'll write it down big for you. 2 over 3. Plus 2 over 9. Now you go ahead and common denominator is 9. I'll just go ahead and tell you that. Okay. How many times will 3 go into 9? 3 times. 3 times 2 is 6. How many times will 9 go into 9?
1,
1 times 2.
2,
And 6 plus 2.
8.
And then the 9 comes over. And I guarantee you there's people in here, you don't have to raise your hands, you don't have to say anything. There's people in here that's always had a problem finding the common denominator and adding or subtracting fractions. The reason you've had that is because nobody showed you how to find the common denominator. They just told you to add them up or multiply them or some crazy thing. And it does work some of the time, but it doesn't work what? All of the time.
So you're actually dividing that bottom number and then multiplying the 2 by the 3. That is correct.
I'm saying how many times 3 will go into 9?
That's 3.
3
And
times 2
2
is 6.
Okay.
Follow the arrows. That's what I tell students to do. I'm supposed to write an arrow right here. There we go. Some people do it like this. They'll, hold on a minute. This is what some people do, and you might be used to this. 2/3 plus 2/9. They use the Z. 9, 9. 3 will go into 9. How many times? 3 times 2 is 6. Some people do the Z. Whichever you want to do. 9 will go into 9, 1, 2. And 2 plus 6 is
8.
8. You get the same answer. Now, of course, these on a scale from 1 to 10 are about 1s. The kinds of them we'll give you on the test are going to be about 9s, 8s, or 9s. Okay, so we're going to work our way up. There we go. This one's one you got, the ones that know it all, they just multiply them all together. Or they use a calculator. You don't need a calculator. You do it the right way. 4 over 15 plus 61 over 75 plus 32 over 125. Go over here. 15, 75, 125. Two, 3, 5, 7, 11, and sometimes 13. 5. 3. 5 will go into 75. 5 will go in there 1 time. 5 times. 5 will go into 2. That'd be 2 times. 25 will be 5. 3 be 1, 5, 25. 5 be 1, 1, 5. 5 will be 1, 1, 1. And that's a 5. Is that a 5? What is that? 3. And what's 5 times 5 times 5? 125. And what's $1.25 times 3? Okay, let's try that again, people. $1.25 times 3.
375.
Thank you. Y'all don't know what $1.25 are? $3.75. And see, here's the great thing about this. You still don't need a calculator. Now, if you need a calculator to multiply $3.25s, then I hope you're not running a cash register because you don't need to be. Now, how many times will 15 go into 375? Well, you come over here, you take off your 15. How many times? 25 times. 25 times 4, what's 4 quarters? Ain't that neat? Look here. How many times will 75 go into 375? You go over here and take off 75. 3 times 25, right? So take off 3 times 25. How many times? 5 times. 5 times 61. Well, 5 times 60 is 300. It's a miracle. You just did that in your head. 305. And then 125. How many times will 125? 1, 2, 3. Go in there. 3 times. 3 times 32 is 96. Now what's 100 plus 305?
405.
405 plus 96 over 375. Now, 405 plus 100 is what?
505.
Minus 4? 501. So your final answer is 501 over 375. And we just did a very complex fraction problem, and you didn't even use what? Calculator. Now I guarantee you, there's somebody in here who's never seen this before
I haven't.
and been through 12 years of school.
Algebra.
And then people can't wonder why